Mom says you should serve, not drink. The orange juice hit the edge of my hand, cold and sticky, as my sister's boy smirked up at me. Laughter rippled around the table. My uncles chuckled, my cousins exchanged looks. My mother didn't even glance my way. The sound felt like forks scraping porcelain. Hi everyone, my name is Lena Cross, I'm 31. And if you think humiliation stops stinging after childhood, it doesn't. It just learns to wear heels. How many times can silence taste like shame before it turns metallic in your mouth? I placed the glass back in front of him, smiled, and said softly, "Tell your mom she raised a parrot, not a child." The laughter died, a small mercy, but my sister's eyes narrowed with that familiar hatred. The kind she saves for people who remind her she isn't kind. The family reunion had always been a stage where they acted rich and righteous. I was the one who never contributed, the black sheep accountant who'd failed to marry smart. They didn't know I'd been paying for Mom's medical bills, their electricity, even my nephew's private school tuition. Quietly, without thanks, through the very business they pretended didn't exist. When Mom texted that night, "Stay away," something inside me clicked like a deadbolt sliding shut. I looked at the pending transfers scheduled for the first. Mortgage help, utilities, tuition. One tap. Cancelled. Then I typed, "Sure." The payments stay away too. By midnight my phone lit up like a confession booth on fire. Missed calls. Messages full of panic disguised as anger. "You can't just pull support like that. Think of the family. Your sister's going to lose the car." For the first time I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed, like watching a storm run out of thunder. The house was silent except for the hum of my laptop fan. My reflection in the dark window looked foreign. A woman finally not apologizing. Outside, dawn was threatening to break. Inside, something else already had. If this ever happened to you, say, same in the comments. The next morning I woke up to 37 missed calls and a single message from my sister. "You think money makes you powerful? Wait till Mom cuts you off for good." I laughed. Out loud. The irony tasted sweet, because Mom hadn't paid a bill in years. I had. Every family favor had my fingerprints on it. Still that morning, guilt itched at my chest like an old rash. Years of conditioning whispered, "You should call, explain, make peace." But another voice, colder, steadier, said, "Let them feel the silence you've carried." I made coffee, opened my accounting dashboard, and watched numbers shift, like soldiers returning from battle. Tuition, unpaid. Utilities, pending. Home repair loan, suspended. Every transaction that once kept them comfortable now blinked red. At noon Mom finally called. Her voice trembled between anger and fear. "Lena, how could you? Your sister's crying." "The kids." "Mom," I interrupted softly, "you told me to stay away. That didn't mean financially." "Then you should have been clearer." There was a long pause, that familiar pause before emotional blackmail arrived. "You're ungrateful," she said at last. "After everything this family's done for you." I wanted to scream, to list every bill I paid, every night I worked late to keep their lives easy. Instead I said, "You're right, Mom. I'm ungrateful. And finally I'm done pretending otherwise." Then I hung up. That evening my inbox filled with apology emails disguised as demands. "We didn't mean it that way. You're taking it too far. Be mature." I didn't reply to any. I just opened the savings folder marked Family Fund, renamed it Freedom Account, and smiled. Outside rain began to fall, soft rhythmic cleansing. Inside for the first time, peace didn't feel like debt. And somewhere in that quiet I realized they hadn't lost my money. They'd lost their control. By the third day the family group chat turned into a war zone. Screenshots, blame, and guilt trips flying faster than morning gossip. "You embarrassed Mom. You're making your sister suffer. Dad says you've turned selfish." I scrolled through every message, sipping coffee, my hands steady for once. The same people who laughed when I was insulted now lectured me on kindness. Hypocrisy had a familiar perfume, expensive but cheap inside. My sister finally sent a voice note. I played it once. "Lena, you always think you're the hero. You're not. You're just bitter. Maybe if you had kids or a husband, you'd understand real responsibility." Her words echoed in the empty apartment like a curse. For a second my chest tightened, not because she was right but because she knew where to aim. I took a deep breath and opened my files. Every invoice, every record of transfers, donations, credit card statements. I'd kept them all. Years of silent transactions hidden under their names. I wasn't planning revenge. Not yet. Just documentation. Proof that generosity had an expiration date. That night, I received an email from the bank confirming cancellation of the automatic transfers. Officially closed. It was final. And freeing. Around midnight I walked onto my balcony. The city lights shimmered like spilled jewelry across the dark. A car passed below, music faintly echoing. For the first time in years I didn't feel invisible. I whispered to the night, let them call me cruel. At least now I'm real. A notification buzzed. My sister again. This time a single message. You'll regret this. Watch. I looked at it almost amused. Because she still thought this was about anger. She didn't understand it was about awakening. Tomorrow I'd start a process that would finally make them see who they'd been living off all along. The silence between us wasn't punishment anymore. It was evidence. The next morning my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in years. My cousin Ethan. He never called unless something was burning. Hey Lena, he began carefully. Aunt Marie just called me. Apparently your sister's car got repossessed? I almost laughed. Ethan, they had 6 months of unpaid installments. They were living on illusions, not income. He sighed. You know they're saying you did it on purpose. That you planned all this. Good, I said quietly. Maybe for once they'll believe I'm capable of something. There was silence. Then he chuckled under his breath. You sound different. Freedom changes the pitch of your voice, I replied, half smiling. After the call I opened my emails again. This time to forward a few accidentally copied receipts. Not to the family chat. To my aunt, the one who adored gossip more than air. Within hours, those screenshots would circulate faster than wildfire. The power bills under my name, the tuition payments from my account, the vacation flight I'd secretly funded. By afternoon I didn't need to check my phone to know the news had spread. The silence was proof enough. No more angry calls. Just absence. The kind that comes before shame sets in. At sunset I went for a walk. The air felt heavy but clean, like the world after rain. A child's laughter from the park nearby tugged at something soft inside me. Maybe deep down I missed belonging. But not enough to beg for it again. When I came home, one final message waited from Mom. We didn't know, Lena. Why didn't you tell us? I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Because telling you meant begging. And I'd already done my begging in silence for years. So I just typed back. You never asked. Then I powered off my phone. The night felt lighter, not because they changed, but because I finally stopped hoping they would. The silence lasted 3 days. Then came the apology dinner invitation, disguised as Mom wants peace. I almost declined. But curiosity is a quiet poison. The restaurant was one of those dimly lit places where the wine costs more than dignity. My mother sat at the head of the table, her pearls gleaming like little lies. My sister arrived last, sunglasses inside, nerves disguised as confidence. Lena, Mom started softly, we've all said things we didn't mean. I smiled. Only difference is I meant mine. The waiter poured water. The sound was loud in the silence that followed. My sister leaned forward, voice dripping honey and venom. We just think family shouldn't mix emotions with money. You know, it makes people uncomfortable. I set my glass down slowly. Uncomfortable, like telling your child to serve, not drink? Her cheeks flushed. Mom gave her that warning look, but I continued. See, what's funny is, you all thought I was desperate for your approval. You never realized I was financing your lives. Mom's expression hardened. Don't make this ugly, Lena. I chuckled softly. It's already been ugly, Mom. I'm just turning on the lights. I slid a folder across the table. A copy of every payment, every receipt, every loan covered under my name. The paper hit like thunder. This is what ungrateful looks like, I said quietly. My sister's voice cracked. You can't just throw this in our faces. Why not? You threw your shame in mine for years. Mom exhaled slowly, her tone softening into surrender. What do you want, Lena? I looked at her, really looked. The woman who raised me on guilt instead of love. Nothing, I said. That's the point. I stood, pushed my chair in gently, and walked away as their silence followed. heavy, stunned, unrepairable. Outside, the city air felt alive again. The wind smelled like endings and relief. Sometimes, peace doesn't come wrapped in forgiveness. It comes when you finally stop attending the same war. I didn't expect the fallout to be instant. But by morning it was everywhere. My cousin sent me screenshots from the family chat. Mom crying emojis, my sister's meltdown, and my aunt typing in caps like a courtroom stenographer on caffeine. Lena exposed the family. Unbelievable. Exposed? I almost laughed. Truth isn't exposure. It's oxygen. That afternoon my sister called. For the first time her voice didn't sound smug. It sounded small. Are you happy now? She asked. No, I said. But I'm free. She scoffed. You've ruined us. Mom won't talk to anyone. People are gossiping. Then they'll finally have a reason worth gossiping about. There was silence, then the faint sound of her crying before she hung up. I didn't feel triumph. I felt something quieter, the ache of someone peeling off old skin. Later I drove to the lake near our childhood home. The water shimmered under the afternoon sun, still and endless. It was where we used to play tag as kids, before the hierarchy began, before love became transactional. I sat on the old dock, let my shoes dangle over the edge and whispered to the reflection, you did good. Not perfect. Not saintly. But honest. My phone buzzed again, this time a new number. I answered out of instinct. Miss Cross, the voice said. This is Colin from Harper & Company. We received your resignation last year, but we'd like to discuss consulting again. We've seen your independent work and... I froze for a second. Wait, you've seen it? Yes. Your family's business collapse made headlines in the local financial paper. We're impressed by your handling. I thanked him calmly, but inside something burned bright, poetic, inevitable. The same family that once mocked my tiny accounting gig had now handed me the kind of exposure they'd never dreamed of. Sometimes karma doesn't need an audience. It just needs timing. That night I opened my laptop again, not to check messages this time but to sign the new contract. The offer from Harper & Company wasn't just generous, it was poetic. Triple my old salary, full autonomy, and a private office downtown. I didn't tell anyone. Not out of spite, just peace. Real peace doesn't need announcements. Still, the silence from home hung heavy. Days turned into weeks. No calls. No "we miss you." Only distant noise, whispers carried through cousins and neighbors. Apparently, my sister had sold her jewelry to cover debts. Mom stopped hosting her precious Sunday brunches. Their kingdom of pride had crumbled, not from my revenge but from their own neglect. One afternoon I stopped by Mom's street. Just parked outside, windows rolled up, watching the house I'd once called home. The curtains were drawn, the porch lights off even in daylight. I almost knocked. Almost. But then I remembered every time I'd stood there before. Gifts in hand, smiles rehearsed, words swallowed to keep peace that never existed. So instead I left something quietly in their mailbox. A plain white envelope with a single check. Not large. Not pity. Just closure. Inside I'd written one sentence in blue ink. Debt cleared. So is my heart. Driving away I felt the strangest thing. Not victory, not revenge. Just release. Like breathing for the first time after years underwater. That night rain began again. I made tea, dimmed the lights and stared out the window. My reflection looked softer. Like someone who had finally stepped out of her family's shadow. My phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. We saw the envelope. Thank you. No signature. But I knew the tone, half pride, half surrender. I typed one word back. Peace. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's rebuilding without witnesses, without permission. Tomorrow I'd start my new job. But tonight I let the rain applaud for me. My first morning at Harper & Company felt unreal. The elevator mirrors caught my reflection. Calm, composed, unrecognizable from the woman who once begged her family for approval. When I walked into my office, sunlight spilled across the desk like a blessing. A fresh start in golden light. I hung a small photo on the wall. Me and Mom at the lake before the bitterness began. Not forgiveness, just remembrance. Because healing doesn't mean rewriting history. It means holding it without letting it poison you. By noon I was buried in spreadsheets and strategy calls. My mind buzzed with purpose. The kind that didn't drain, it fueled. Then just as I closed my laptop for lunch, my phone lit up again. My hand hesitated, hovering above the screen. But I answered. Her voice was quieter this time, stripped of authority. Lena, how are you? I'm okay, I said softly. Really okay. A pause, then a sigh that sounded like years collapsing. I shouldn't have said what I said that night. You didn't deserve that. For a second I forgot how to breathe. Thank you, I whispered. She continued, her voice trembling. Your sister's been struggling. But we saw your envelope. It helped more than you know. I didn't send it to help, I replied gently. I sent it to end. Silence. Then Mom said something I never expected. You've turned out stronger than all of us, Lena. After we hung up, I just sat there, letting the words sink in, warm and strange. Outside, the city glimmered in late afternoon gold. I stepped to the window, watching people rush below, all chasing peace, all believing it's something you have to earn. But peace isn't earned. It's reclaimed. And sometimes, it arrives in the quiet after chaos, when you stop trying to fix what was never yours to repair. I looked down at my hands, the same ones that once served everyone else, now steady, open, free. The same silence that used to hurt finally felt holy.